Okay, it's Marky Billson, Tri-City Sports Now. I was talking baseball draft and Scott Boras. By the way, just to remind everyone, you've been hearing Matt Polly. He'll tell you in the next hour about the Tennessee Volunteers who were selected in the baseball draft yesterday and all this. There have been no Tri-Cities proper players, but some people to note. No ETSU players were taken in the first 2 days. Today's the final, day of the draft. They go 11 to 40. There's no more 62nd round for Mike Piazza to be selected by. I guess he'd be a free agent today. But 3 players. Okay, Mercer's Sawyer Gibson Long was selected in the 6th round of the 2019 Major League Baseball first-year player draft. Mercer's where John Rocker, of all people, went to. I mean, they generally have some decent players coming from the Bears. Kind of surprised the first day no players from Samford, seeing as how Samford was the regular season champ. But anyway, Gibson Long was selected 179th overall. He goes to the Twins. He's from Woodstock, Georgia. He threw 83 innings, over 23 appearances, 14 starts. Helped Mercer win the SoCon Tourney, 8-4, but only a 5.20 ERA. But he was one of the national leaders in strikeout to walk ratio with 99 Ks and just 18 walks. And so there you go, right? He's a right-hander. I mentioned Zach Kent from VMI in my opening monologue. Kent is the 4th highest draft pick in the history of the Keydets. He was taken in the 9th round by the Rangers. Was 5-5 with a 4.64 ERA, 1 save in 15 games. But you see, he started 14. He was 9th in the nation with 132 strikeouts, and that's a VMI record. Also, UNCG's Chad Sykes was selected in the 10th round by the Los Angeles Angels. Second straight year in which a UNCG player was selected by the Angels. Andrew Wantz was selected in the 7th round last year. Sykes, the ERAs I just mentioned to you of Kent going to the Rangers in the 9th round. He's a junior. He could return to VMI if he wanted to, I suppose. Money wasn't right. But anyway, Kent is... his ERA was a little high. He was a strikeout pitcher. Control pitcher was Gibson Long, taken in the 6th round by the Twins. Future Elizabethan twin? Who knows? But anyway, Chad Sykes was selected, and he had a low ERA, 0.91. Of course, a lot of times this deals with range, and, for all I know, the official scorers in Greensboro give errors to everybody, and all this. But senior year, 0.96 ERA to lead all D1 pitchers. SoCon Pitcher of the Year was Sykes, and he had 22 saves, along with 13 wins, so a closer, and your ERA then generally, if you're just on 1 inning, and all this, it can be low. Then again, you can have a high ERA as a relief pitcher, and it doesn't really mean that much. I know you shouldn't and all this, but ERA isn't all that important. I mean, think of it this way. You come into a 5-2 game, you give up a solo home run, team wins 5-3, your ERA for the day is 9. You've done your job. Yeah, so that's why sometimes ERA isn't as important for a relief pitcher as, say, strikeouts, innings pitch, whip, that sort of thing. All right. Scott Boras, the agent extraordinaire who runs the Washington Nationals, or at least he used to, wants a restructured draft that incentivizes winning. He told the Boston Herald all this. Michael Silverman was the reporter that he told it to. Boras Field's baseball should not reward teams for losing. This has long been held. I mean, there's some talk about why is there a draft in the first place. NFL was the first one to have a draft. That was done to basically a parody. It was done way back in 1935. Baseball draft came in 1965. Before then, you went out and you signed your own players. That's still done overseas. In basketball, NBA didn't start until, 46, so I'm trying to think. I know there was a basketball draft as recently as 50, and I'm going to plead ignorance on a hockey draft. Forgive me on that. But anyway, regardless, there's always been the idea, doesn't it incentivize you to lose to get the first pick? You know what I say? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And here's why. What the draft does, in essence, is make it easier for the veteran player to be replaced. Now think about this for a second. Josh Rosen, Arizona Cardinal. Do you think he was trying to tank for the Cardinals so they could draft Kyler Murray and take his job away? Honestly. I know, remember when the Saints and the Colts met in the Super Bowl back 2009, 2010, Peyton Manning, you know. Remember that? And remember how those teams were undefeated towards the end of the year, and then they just started to lose when they had their divisions and the first seed wrapped up. Why risk injury? And all of a sudden, Curtis Painter started playing instead of Peyton Manning for the Colts, and you said, my goodness, Curtis Painter has to be the worst quarterback that ever lived. And suddenly this team that went to the Super Bowl was losing every game. So was the Saints. You thought for a second you were going to have two 16-0 teams playing in the Super Bowl in the greatest matchup ever. And these teams, Indianapolis and New Orleans, getting rid of their losing reputations forever. No. They just tanked. And Roger Goodell, then I remember he said, well, we're looking into this situation. We're thinking of maybe for teams that do this, if it's not taking away draft choices. And I'm screaming, that's only going to help more tanking. Veteran players do not want to lose their job. Why in the world would you, we're going to take draft choices away. So the idea to prevent veteran players, from not taking it easy or whatever, or tanking, so to speak, will be the incentive not to do it is that if you do it, there'll be fewer players coming in to take your job away. How does that make any sense? That's why I don't like draft lotteries. And frankly, if you are, a lot of what is now called tanking, I mentioned this Pittsburgh Penguins situation when before an NHL draft lottery, which I hate, they finished with the worst record in the NHL to draft Mario Lemieux. This was back in 1984. And there are some thoughts that, they tanked. They traded away Randy Carlyle. He was a Norris Trophy winning defenseman. But where were they going with him? Why, they called up Vincent Tremblay from the minors to play in net the last few games. He had played for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Why don't you see what he has when your team is going nowhere? See if you do have a legitimate backup goalie here. I mean, you're building to the future. Well, he used to see put on a penalty kill. Then no business being out there on the penalty kill. Let me ask you this. When you're going nowhere, why don't you say, okay, penalty kill, you know what? Put my top scoring line out there. I know it's not done, but we're down 5-2 right now. And the argument that you're making right now is we should just shave off 2 minutes of this game. Why don't I try for an empty netter? Why don't I try to do this unorthodox? If it doesn't work, we're down 6-2. We're not winning anyway. If it does work, now it's 5-3. I've learned something for the future. So, when you're going nowhere, maybe you try new things. Maybe you try, you're a basketball team. Power forward, 6'10". Let's see what he can do at center. What the heck? And then, maybe you try that. And I think that's building to the future. Now, the modern day vernacular is to call it tanking and to think of the now instead of the future. Anyway, it's along those lines with Scott Boras saying baseball should not reward teams for losing. How you resolve that is simple, he tells the Boston Herald and Michael Silverman. If you don't win 72 games or so, you don't get a top 5 pick. If you don't win 70 games or so, your draft status falls outside the top 10 picks. You're basically falling outside the draft if you're non-competitive. You must win a certain level of games annually to get the requisite positioning in the draft that your club would normally acquire. If you don't win the requisite number of games, you fall outside the top 5 or top 10 pick. You know what this is actually going to do? I would say it's not going to stop tanking at all. Because, like I said, if I'm baseball player on losing team, I'm trying my best because I wish to stay in the major leagues. Now, if they trade me away or send me down to the minors or whatever, I mean, that's a different story. But my effort is going to be there. Now, what you've just posed is a way of saying, this one maybe we should lose. Because if it's going to be that much more likely that a player of lesser talent will be coming to try to take your job away, why wouldn't you do it? So this is why I think that these ideas, it incentivizes losing to draft high. Maybe to the front office, not the player. Think about that. How did it help? I'm going to say that here. How did it help Vincent Treblay? It was I've mentioned the Penguins, Mario Lemieux situation, okay. How did it help him to lose those games for the Penguins? He was never back in the NHL. Now, if he had pitched shutouts, maybe they said, you know what? Maybe Treblay can be our starting goalie next year. I mean, he used to be with the Maple Leafs. He was down in Baltimore all year long. I mean, why would he not try to win? Think about that. So this is one of those agents trying to, and it's again, trying to manipulate, getting the richer teams to have higher draft choices. Very shady agent work right here. I don't think it's going to happen. The other thing is that the baseball draft, I mean, yeah, Bob Horner was drafted by the Braves 40 years ago when he was inserted right into the lineup and he had a home run in his first game and he took off like that. But even Barry Bonds was a half season in A-ball and a few weeks in AAA before he was called up to the majors, and he was probably rushed because in his rookie year he only hit .223. So, I mean, say what you will. I don't know. I don't even like draft lotteries. I mean, all we hear about in the NBA, it was tanked. Why did Zion Williamson go to New Orleans? Was that on the up and up? Why didn't the Knicks get him? It would probably be better for the NBA. I mean, if you're one of these people that believes the big market team winning is good for the league, the NFL is the most popular league in the country. The Green Bay Packers have won the NFL championship more than any other team. They play in the smallest market of any major North American professional sports team. I don't see where that holds any water then, but if you are of that opinion, then I don't know, was there hanky-panky in the draft lottery so the Knicks wouldn't get in it to avoid suspicion? Was that? Stop the conspiracy theories and just go. Knicks get the first pick in a draft, team that finishes in last. Like I said, Josh Rosen was not playing poorly so that his job could be taken away by Kyler Murray. No, just the opposite. I just do not understand this. By the way, Boras actually said this. He says, this is guy you're going to hate him. Of course, Dallas Keuchel and Craig Kimbrell now, if they're signed, they don't get draft choices and taken away from him. Anyway, Boras, who is Dallas Keuchel's agent, whipped out an interesting quote discussing the old Cy Young Award winner. I asked Scott Boras, this is what John Marazi says if he acts a quick resolution on Dallas Keuchel. The wine has to decant, Boras said. Yet another instance of Boras being too stubborn for his and his client's own good. You say what you will, but Kimbrell's stock really did go down the end of last year. I mean, he wasn't even the guy that ultimately they were using as a closer. It was Chris Sale in a World Series for the Red Sox. And, closer is a bad investment. I have often thought that agents don't help out their clients as much as they could. Sometimes they give them bad advice. And I think that's where Boras is right now. I really do. Anyway, I'm Marky Billson. Don't forget the SoCon Commissioner tomorrow at 12:30. New one coming in. Jim Schaus, late of Ohio University. We'll be talking to him about the future of the league tomorrow. 14:20 to